Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to Friday night program. Tonight I'm very honored and delighted to moderate a discussion panel calling it My Conversion Story, Why I Accepted Islam. A panel discussion with Brother Kunal Pataria. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
All right. And Sister Ana Ruby Mendoza. All right. So we're going to be discussing, inshallah, their own journeys, right? And inshallah, they'll be reflective of, let's say, what many of our convert brothers and sisters go through. And inshallah, for those of us like myself who are born and raised in Islam, can have a better, deeper appreciation, understanding of, or rather appreciation, I should say, of what we have taken for granted, right? That we were born in something we were born and raised with, right? And this is something that they have, consciously chosen, right? In spite of whatever obstacles that they have gone along the way. So I guess I'll be asking a generic question, and then I'll hand it off for the both of you to answer, and then we'll have the discussion kind of in that format, and then at the end we'll take question and answers, inshallah. Sound good? Sounds good. Awesome. So I guess I'm sure you've told the story a million times, right? So we'll try to break it down, okay? So what made you interested in learning about Islam to begin with? And begin, I guess, by saying, what was your background? Okay, answer that question, and then go into what made you interested in learning about Islam. Ladies first, so we'll start with Sister Ana.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So I guess I'll start with how I was raised. So I was raised in a non-practicing Catholic home. I'm Mexican, and I guess I didn't really, since we didn't really grow up practicing Catholicism, my sister and me, we just kind of grew up very passively. Religion wasn't really the center of our lives or anything. And then after in high school, I started thinking about religion basically. And that's when I decided to become agnostic, which means that I didn't believe that there was a God or that there wasn't a God. It was just I don't know, we can't prove either way. So that was my mindset. And later on, 2 years later, someone invited me to Islam. And after that, I was just I don't really have anything to, lose. I'll learn about religions. And once I started learning about Islam, that's when I really, loved it, and 2 years later, I accepted Islam.
Okay, cool. So we'll be asking details about that, in the 2-year process, a little later, inshallah. Okay, and Kunal, same question. What made you interested in learning about Islam? And what was your background and all that?
Assalamu alaikum. My background, I come from a Hindu family, and a practicing Hindu family. My mom and dad, they taught me things over time about their religion, and growing up, religion was one of the main concerns. It was something that was passive for me as well. It wasn't until I reached college I started just realizing or thinking about religion slowly, and it started growing on to me a little bit. The question about God and even my religion, and questioning the stuff I was doing, which made me kind of lean towards religion in general. And studying about my own religion first, it was very, very contradicting, in my opinion, what I was learning and what I was reading. So I just started looking into other religions, and Islam wasn't even the first that came to mind. It was actually the last religion that I looked at. And when I actually started reading the Quran, I was reading just reading the verses, it just struck me that Islam was something that I might be really interested in. Alhamdulillah, I found it and converted. So it was just it was very peaceful and very relative to what I was going through in my life at the time, and it just really hit me learning about it more. So that's the reason why I got more interested about Islam.
All right, very good. So how long have you been Muslim now?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so you said that it took you, like, your journey was a 2-year process from when you first were introduced to Islam to when you actually accepted the teachings. Can you tell us about that time frame? This is why we need a handheld mic.
Alright, so when I first started learning about Islam, I was 16. I was probably like a junior in high school. And a lot of, from what I learned was basically online. I was encouraged to speak to someone who basically answered a lot of my questions. They had a really good foundation in the, foundations of Islam. So they offered me to, read, trusted sites on, topics, what is God, all those dawah brochures. So I think that was, the 2 years. And because the fact that I didn't believe in God, I think those 2 years, it was really focusing on getting myself to believe in God. And I knew that if there was a God, then it was the God that, I guess, Islam described. And so I guess that's why it took me 2 years to learn, because at the time I was just very confused and I wanted to know everything. Mm-hmm. So I was like, no, once I accept Islam, I'm going to wear hijab, I'm going to, do this, and I'm just going to know everything. But later on I realized that, no one knows everything. They have to learn a lot of stuff, and it's learning is a journey. So I thought that, it was just time to accept it after a while.
Okay. So basically you got to the point where there's no way I can learn everything, but you realize that this is something that you want, that you realize that this is the truth, that you're just going to go for it.
Yeah.
And just move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right, I guess same question. I mean, you kind of went into it when you first time around, right? In your journey, you said when you were in college, you really were studying on it. So I guess after you picked up the Quran, right, which actually is usually a key moment, right? I think for many converts, right, when they first pick up the Quran, even though it's a translation, but something about it gets to you. Do you have maybe a particular memory of something that that stood out for you, that made you, I guess, want to delve deeper, and kind of that aha moment?
I often forget what the verse was, but I do remember it was in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah that really opened my eyes up. And I remember that one day, the day I did actually start reading the Quran, I started reading the verses and I started tearing up, and just in my bed, and just reading it over and over and over again, and it just really struck me. I think that was the day I realized that that's what I really wanted to become. It was being part of Islam and being Muslim, and I was very, very lucky and fortunate to have a lot of Muslim friends around me. My best friends, they're all Muslim, and they really helped me transition into being Muslim. And it was it was kind of an easy transition for me, somewhat, compared to other converts, because I had a circle of friends who would teach me how to pray and how to pronounce certain things, and having Arab friends really helped, because just the pronunciation got a lot more better and easier for me as well. So I think that just because of that, it just really helped me ease my way into it as well. So yeah, that's
cool. All right. The next question is for the both of you. As in, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that he said, "Innama bu'ithtu li'utammima makarim al-akhlaq." I was sent only to perfect and complete good manners, right? The values. This is what, I guess, this is the core of Islam. And next to Tawheed, the oneness of Allah, it's about manners, how we treat each other, right? So, and the values that we have. Is there, could you do a compare and contrast of how you led your life morally, right? Before Islam and after Islam. Look, what happened before Islam is done, right? All that has been turned into, good stuff. So I mean, and I think this is important only because, to appreciate the journey of self-discovery and the human experience, right? Feel free to omit what you want. That's okay. You want to go first? Okay. All right. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Kind of like a journey to like how.
So it's kind of like, I mean, like something that comes to mind, for example, is like Malcolm X, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you couldn't get much worse than that. You know, living a life of drugs, and he was a pimp, and he did, you know, robbing, and he did all these things, right? He couldn't have gone except up, right? So, and like, you know,
I kind of have like a similar, not as extreme situation as him, but back before I converted, like the year I actually converted, I was just a regular college student, and I would go out and just do things college students would want to do with their friends. I was part of a fraternity. I would often go to parties and just do whatever college students wanted to do. And I think it wasn't really like religion that hit me first. It was just like one day I woke up feeling really bad about what I was doing, and the first thing I thought was my parents and how they raised me. And the second thing I thought it was religion. So, I mean, I felt like I wasn't really moving anywhere in life, and my morals and ethics wasn't really helping me as well, because those are the two things that are supposed to make you a better person, in my opinion at least. And with that being said, even not having like God in mind in my life really like pushed me further away from what I was doing in the past. So I think like because of that and what I went through, it just really like pushed me towards like just studying about like whatever religion I thought at first, and whether it was like Hinduism or Christianity and then Islam, and a lot of the people I was surrounding myself with too. I started drifting away from some of my Muslim friends and then started hanging out with a lot of non-Muslim people and people who were like the same as me, that were Hindu at the time. And there's not too much restrictions on what is there to do as there is in Islam, like how it's for us it's haram to drink, it's haram to do certain other things as well. But I mean, what I really found in Hinduism wasn't really something that I was looking for in it as well. And when I was reading Hinduism, a lot of the stuff, like I said before, contradicted to what I was reading from the Holy Scriptures. So just going off of that and basically just like pushing myself forward and trying myself to look into religion, it just really opened my eyes when I read the Quran and what it said, because it's true when people say that the Quran is literally it's a guidebook for life. It really is. Like it has all these rules that you can follow very easily, and what we're supposed to and not supposed to do, and how we're supposed to live our lives in a way that pleases Allah, because that's what it's ultimately all about. So that's what experience was.
Good answer, Jazakallah khair. Mr. Anna, same question.
Okay. So I accepted Islam when I was 18. So by then I was already 2 years into learning about Islam, and even though I was a Muslim, I was already like praying, like doing things that Muslims do. So from then on, it wasn't hard. But before that, I did do things that obviously are haram, but at the time I didn't consider myself like a bad person, because just the way that how I grew up, I just saw everyone else doing it. So, but after a while, like during those 2 years, I started realizing that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like sent all of this wisdom, it was for us, and that Islam is not just something you do on Fridays, it's not something you do even just like 5 times a day for 5 minutes. It's like a whole lifestyle. And all those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says don't do or refrain from or limit yourself from, those are all things for our own good. So just kind of by keeping that in mind, I was able to transition. After I became Muslim, I had my roommates who were Muslim too eventually. So I think all of that just kind of helped me too. So does that answer the question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Another question I wanted to ask you guys was, even in your journey towards Islam, right? I think I speak like a lot of for those of us who were born and raised in the Muslim. There's a lot of we're ultra sensitive to the anti-Muslim and anti-Islamic sentiment and rhetoric that's out there, right? And so actually we're kind of overjoyed and astonished even when someone decides to come to Islam despite all of that, right? So did you hear or come across anti-Muslim, anti-Islamic sentiment, and what made you want to look at Islam anyway? You know.
Speaking of that, there was a time actually, in my early, when I was younger, I would actually make fun of Muslim people because I didn't know any better, and he's my best friend. I would just make fun of him just because he'd be Muslim, but I wouldn't realize that damaging effect how it had on the community and stuff. So just growing up, I started realizing that it's always not okay to do that, and when I would hear from other people, I would just ignore it and try to educate people as well, and getting closer to my friend circle who were predominantly Muslim. I learned more about it and stop with the jokes and all that kind of stuff. So usually when someone would want to bash about Islam, it would kind of want to make me think and ask questions, and I would do that to my friends, ask them questions. So luckily at the time when I converted, which was about 4.5 years ago, there wasn't as much anti-Muslim sentiment as there is right now. At least from what I've experienced, I didn't really experience as much. Maybe you guys did, it would maybe have been different, but before this whole ISIS and this whole election cycle that really fueled this anger towards Muslims and the rise of Islamophobia, it wasn't really much of a problem for me that I saw it. I guess that's just a blessing then, because having Muslim friends really opened my eyes as well what Islam is and what true Islam is too.
Right.
So that was very helpful.
And I think what a lot you just said right now really the focus point was on the fact that you had Muslim friends.
Yeah.
That right there helped you have a positive image of Islam.
Yes.
And even when you yourself would engage in anti-Muslim jokes or whatever, after a while you're like, hold on, we found the line.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And my family, I remember when September 11th happened, my mom, she was watching the news and they said that, Islam versus us, and then, she would just kind of buy into it. But I knew first, when I was younger, I also knew that wasn't, right as well. Because I remember when 9/11 happened, I knew Muslim people too when I was younger, but I never saw Muslim people as as they would say the enemy or whatever they would.
Same question. The whole learning about Islam in spite of the anti-Islamic rhetoric out there.
So growing up, I didn't really know any Muslims. So I think when I went into learning about Islam, it was just kind of just taking in everything without really having any misconceptions and stuff like that. But once I started learning about it, I just realized and started hearing people, but it was mostly through online. So I didn't directly have this experience, but just people all kinds of ignorance. And I was just alhamdulillah, when I came into it, I didn't have these preconceived notions, but so I would say no. And the fact that I was also at college during the 4 years, I was around Muslims and I was around people my age who were pretty open-minded, I would say. So I think that helped. So, but alhamdulillah, to this day, there wasn't really anything no.
That's good.
There was just one instance, when someone said something to me, but it happens.
Okay.
But, alhamdulillah.
Okay. Good. Okay, this next question that I have is kind of there's two dimensions. What challenges have you had since becoming Muslim? So let's start with your family reaction, okay? And then we'll go into other things, all right?
So I accepted Islam in November of my freshman year. And I didn't tell my parents until probably 2 months later. And when they found out, they didn't like it. My mom did not like it. She was mad that I didn't tell her. Not that I was Muslim, but that I didn't tell her. But after that, it was just... they were pretty accepting, I guess. Nothing bad happened. They didn't kick me out. They didn't make me give up Islam like I would really. But because in the end, they weren't really...
they weren't practicing their own religion.
They weren't practicing themselves, so how can you tell me something So they're just like, yeah, you know, it's something good. Religion is generally good. So if you want to do it, do it. Just kind of don't get me, you know, in this stuff. I don't really want to know anything about it. So it was kind of hard to deal with that, knowing that something I was so, you know, passionate about and something that was just so enlightening and so just something that I loved, you know. And then for them to just say, you know, like, we don't really want to know about it. You can do it, it's okay, but we don't want to know about it. So that was hard for me, and yeah, that's how my parents reacted, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And to this day, it's still kind of.
What about your siblings?
My siblings, I have one sister. She was just kind of. I think she was the only one who really knew that I was looking into Islam, and she was just like, oh, like, why are you doing this today? Like, why are you not eating today? Why are you, you know? I think she kind of knew what was going on, and she just thought it was weird. She kind of still thinks stuff I do is weird. I think that's just my sister.
Okay. All right, cool. How did your parents react, and your brothers and sisters, if you have any?
My parents almost kicked me out of the house when they found out I was Muslim. So I converted in October of 2012, and I didn't tell my parents till I believe it was April 2013. So about like 5-6 months until I was finding out some Muslims. And during the 5-6 months, my parents actually, my family, what they used to do is that they would have a temple inside the house, and every Sunday there'll be a prayer, like we pray as a family. So for 6 months, I had to pray with them while hiding out Muslims. But that was one of the hardest challenges I had, because I mean, it's strictly forbidden to pray to anything else. But I've talked to like a couple of sheikhs, and they told me that as long as like it's not hard that you're praying to whatever they're praying, you know, inshallah, you know, Allah won't hold that against me, because I was in a very tight spot at the time. But after I told them, you know, I immediately stopped praying with them, and they didn't like that at all. My dad almost got in a physical fight with me for the fact of me being Muslim, and tried to kick me out. And it was very rough in the beginning for me being Muslim, the first 2 years at least. And it wasn't until, I believe, in Eid of 2015, Eid al-Adha, where I actually told my mom that I'm going to my friend's engagement instead of coming into the masjid. When I came back, she found out that I came to the masjid and, you know, just started crying and just like, yelling at me and, you know, all these things. And she stormed out the house. But luckily, my aunt, who knew I was Muslim, she explained to my mom that, you know, at least that I believe in God, I believe in a religion, because her son is actually atheist. So that really put some sense to my mom, and, you know, luckily, one day I was praying in my room, and she walks in, and I could see her smiling, you know, while I'm praying Isha, you know, and I started smiling, and she asked me, like, you know, why are you smiling? But I didn't respond because I was still praying, but you know, I knew that, you know, alhamdulillah, she accepted it, and that made my transition easier after that. So.
It's a rough story, but it's a good ending.
Yeah.
You know, like I personally have been exposed to a lot of converts who, you know, they've told the horror stories, right? Where right away, you know, their families would cut them off, kick them out of the house, you know, as is, like whatever the clothes on their back, that's it. You're out of our lives. So I can only imagine like the hardship, and then the only real family that's left is the Muslim community, and then they don't really have any, and then we are not really equipped, right, to, let's say, take in someone until they can stand on their own 2 feet, you know. Hey kiddos, upstairs, do you guys mind playing outside, please? Thank you. Okay, so that was the first challenge, right, was how the family reacted. Next challenge is the new lifestyle, right? Praying 5 times a day, fasting Ramadan, like your first fast, then being, like, what was that like?
I think Ramadan is still hard. I don't know if it'll get easier. I know how people like fast all the time. Some people, that's their form of worship, but I still struggle with it. Praying. Sometimes I'm just in the out, and my parents are just like, we're not coming home till later, and I just have to like freak out, like pick a spot. But alhamdulillah, like if there's a will, there's a way. And at the end of the day, whether we have to, pray all the way in the end, all the way in the beginning, or pray sitting down, or we have to get creative because that's the only way that we have to, do our obligations. I think that was the hardest part. I think wearing hijab, but I think I slowed into it. So as I was like, when I started learning about Islam, I just thought it was like a beautiful concept of how it wasn't, it was just kind of like for our own, like modesty, and how Islam elevated women so much. And I thought it was kind of beautiful. And over time, I realized that why I wanted to wear a scarf was because I was proud to be Muslim, and that at the end of the day, like I don't really care what people think because this is me. This is between me and my Creator. So.
Same question. How, like the praying 5 times a day and other things that like fasting and everything like that, like the behavior, the lifestyle, right? Like and it's a lifetime process for all of us, I think, right? So could you talk about your experience?
When it came to fasting for my first Ramadan, it wasn't really that bad because before I converted to Islam, one thing I forgot to mention in my story was some of my friends asked me if I wanted to fast with them for Ramadan, and I said, yeah, I'll try it out. So that first Ramadan that I actually did it when I was not Muslim, it really wasn't that bad, and it was when it started to become summertime. And then the next year when I was fasting, it wasn't as much. It got a little tougher because I was actually Muslim, and the fact that I hid from my parents, I was fasting for Ramadan. And I remember one night I had to actually 20 minutes before Maghrib I had to break my fast because I had no choice but to eat my parents and have a family dinner with them. But other than that, Ramadan and fasting isn't really too much of a problem, thankfully. But when it came to praying and actually easing into praying 5 times a day, having a time in prayer, that still becomes a challenge for me at times, and it goes up and down. And I'm pretty sure for many of us it goes up and down, where we're like in our highest level of Iman, and we're just like, okay, well, I'm going to pray every prayer on time, and then the other time it's just like, okay, I'll pray in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, inshallah, I'll always combine my prayers. And that's the thing I still struggle with. But there's still a lot to learn. Obviously, I know for all of us, there's still a lot to learn. And just memorizing the Quran and more verses too, wasn't really as bad as I thought it would be. So other than that, it wasn't fairly rough.
Okay, so we covered family acceptance, we covered self growth, the challenges within becoming Muslim. Third dimension, what about your social circle, your friends, and your work? I don't know if you were working at the time, you probably in college, so your friends, how did they respond when they found out? And were they supportive, were they open-minded, or were they just, they shunned you away? What happened there?
So at the time, I basically only had Muslim friends. I was going around to the Muslim Student Union, and that's basically all my circle of friends, acquaintances. So alhamdulillah, they were very supportive. I remember they threw away like a welcome, like Chai night party thing. That was really memorable. And so yeah, I think through there I had sisters who were older than me who were able to kind of explain things to me, and the fact that I was going to MSU, there was like classes, and I would attend those too, just so I could kind of ask questions, and so I think that was good.
I got a very overwhelming good response when I became Muslim. A very, very supportive response, because a lot of my friends, like I said, were Muslims, and I remember the day after I converted, I came here to the masjid to park my car to go to the UCL library, and I saw one of my friends walking past here, and he knew, but I didn't tell him at the time, but he knew that I became Muslim. And I was walking with him, and then I asked him how his day was going. He said, yeah, it's good. And he just kept quiet. And I asked him again, like, so where are you going right now? And he said, I'm going to the gym. I was like, that's cool. And I was like, all right, man, yeah, I became Muslim. And he's like, oh my God, subhanAllah, you know, I'm so happy. He's like hugging me, jumping and everything. So, you know, that was something I found very, like, and he also taught me how to pray too. And so he would bring me over here, teach me how to pray and how to, you know, do it properly. And just everyone else, all my friends, you know, like, they really, just, you know, like I said before, just helped me and everything. I did have a couple of negative responses from, you know, who used to be my friends. Just, you know, asking questions like, why would you do that? You know, like, you know, saying it, you know, in a bad way. But I mean, you know, it's just those people like I just left behind, and the people I used to hang out with too in college. I let them go out of my life too because that's not the people I want to associate myself with anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So we hear some stories, some very sad stories. In fact, people who go through the journey, and they decide to make the decision to become Muslim, and then they come to the masjid, they say the shahada, everybody yells takbir, they give them a hug, and then that's it. These people, they disappear, and the next thing, you know, next time that you even hear from them, you find out that actually they have left the religion altogether. They just kind of went back to what they were doing, or they go back, or they just become, you know, they go on their own path, like kind of like they felt like maybe like Islam was like once a stop on their spiritual journey, and they moved on to something, right? As converts, from, you know, what is your, I guess, advice to the Muslim community, whether we're talking those who are like those of us who were born and raised in the religion, or those of us who have converted like you? What advice would you give to minimize that from happening?
I think one of the reasons is because like you come in and you're just like so amazed at all these things. There's fiqh, there's Quran, there's Sunnah, and you're just like, I want to know all this. And what happens sometimes is that you start picking up on these, and you feel like because you just came into Islam, you have like so many things that kind of like you're missing out on and to catch up on. So after a while, it just becomes overwhelming, and you can't keep up with all these things. And she told me in advance, you know, like don't push yourself too hard. Just, you know, you're Muslim now, just take it easy, focus on your prayers, and things will come with time. But I think that because I had this mindset of I want to know everything, I pushed myself into trying to like memorize Quran, and like went to like fiqh halaqah, and I was like, I need to know how to do everything right. And I don't want to kind of like live a life where I'm doing things the incorrect way, basically. And I mean, they were right. I was just trying to know things, and I was taking classes, and it just kind of, I don't know, like after I left UC Irvine and that circle of friends that were Muslim, that were supportive, it's been really hard for me actually to keep things the way that I was kind of used to. So definitely I would suggest not overdoing it, not overwhelming, and just kind of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards by our efforts and by our intentions, and also to have a good support circle.
Okay. Kamal, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so everything Sister Anna said, 100% agree with, and advice I would give to like any converts or like Muslims who are like just trying to find their way back into Islam, go at your own pace, don't rush yourself, and don't force it on yourself either. I mean, one thing as a person who just became Muslim, I would just say that everything I did was on my own pace and learning at my own pace. And I think it's also really important to know that, like, even for the Muslim community, is that it's very important for everyone to realize that once a convert comes to the masjid the first time again and said they could disappear. I had a friend who became Muslim, and unfortunately, you know, I don't believe she is anymore. She went back to her old habits, her old ways, and I think it's very important, especially in Ramadan since it's coming up, that's very important for if anyone were to convert or came to the masjid to learn about Islam or even became Muslim in the next couple of weeks or any year that's Ramadan. It's very important for everyone to realize in the community that whatever if it's Eid or if it's just iftars, it's very important to also keep in touch and to either invite converts over, whether that's in the masjid or to your own house, so that way they don't feel left out, because Ramadan can be a very joyous and spiritual time for all of us, but it can be a very lonely time for converts. And I think it's very misunderstood, and it's also very underrated in the Muslim community. Alhamdulillah, not all of us are like that. I mean, thankfully, my family has been very supportive for me for the past year. During Ramadan, my friends have always been supportive and everything. But at times, I wasn't the feeling of how it feels like being alone, and that's just not me. It's just all the converts as well, that we don't have Muslim families. So it's just something to keep in mind as well.
So your advice to the Muslim community is to make the converts feel included, particularly you said Ramadan and Eid, right? Like I remember, when I was in Dallas, we had this idea that was going on for a few years. Well, the idea was that adopt a convert, kind of thing, right? So on Eid, a bunch of families were they were like, oh, you're gonna stay with us for all day Eid, right? And whatever our normal family activity will be on Eid. Okay, you're a family of 6, hey, table for 7. Same thing. Whatever we're doing, just add that so that they don't feel left out, so that they actually feel like they are part of something. They're part of the celebration, they're part of the joy, inshallah. I'm reminded actually of a couple of incidents. One incident from the seerah, from the story of the Prophet ﷺ, when after the hijrah happened, right? One of the first things that the Prophet ﷺ did was that he paired a muhajir, a Muslim who was from Mecca, with someone from the Ansar. And if you look at the situation, the muhajir had been a Muslim for up to 13 years already, learning Islam from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ for so many years. And here you had the Ansar who were brand new Muslims. On the other hand, the Muhajirin had nothing, or next to nothing, materials-wise. And the Ansar, they were this is their turf, right? So the Prophet ﷺ instilled what's called the mu'akha, right? The brotherhood. He paired a Muhajir with an Ansar. He said that you two are now brothers. And at the time, it extended to the point of inheritance. So he was your brother, and if something were to happen to you, if we were paired together, I would inherit whatever you left behind. That's how, to the extent of the brotherhood went, right? And quite possibly, I think this is something that we need to reestablish, the sunnah, so that the converts do not feel left out. So that when someone who comes and joins the community, that we need to have a program where people who say, I will take care of the next convert, right? Put me on that list, right? And they will become your brother. They will become your sister, right? And this is just an idea. What do you think? Right? We can let them out so we don't lose them, right? Once they come in, because we have a responsibility to teach our brothers and sisters the deen, right? Once they come in, we have that responsibility. And if they leave, hey, that's their decision. Allah guides whom He wills. But but also we have a share as to the reasons why that possibly even happened, right? Let's go ahead and open the floor for questions. Before we do you want to add anything before we open it? Okay. Any questions? Yes, brother.
Not a question. Just I want to remind my new brothers and sisters, and all of us, the hadith of Rasulullah saying, our Prophet saying that Jahannam, hellfire is surrounded by the desire to ask, luxury, enjoyment, all kinds of things. And paradise is surrounded by hardship. Hardship could be economical hardship, social hardship, what you faced before, and also spiritual hardship.
Yeah.
Let's say the Ramadan is coming, it is long day, it is very, very hard for me.
Right.
5 times it is hardship. That's why Prophet said, paradise is surrounded by hardship. And also, you said that some brothers going out of the religion. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala His mention. It is up to Him.
Right.
If He does not guide, nobody can be guided.
Sure.
Nobody. He said, is one verse in the Quran, Allah yajtabi ilayhi man yasha'u wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. Allah chooses for Him whom He wills.
Right.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide those who turn back towards Him.
Right.
If you come too close to the masjid, if you come too close to the Quran, if you come too close to the hadiths, then automatically you will be guided.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the people, they go away, their friends circle back, and they, day by day attack.
Right. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, that's very true. And the thing is, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this thing called the choice or free will, then at the same, while 100% what you just said, because all that, from the Quran and the hadith, we know that. There's also, I guess what we call the asbab, right? The means, right? And if something that, that I did, that drove a person away from Islam, I have to answer for that, right? So, yes, Allah guides whom He wills and He leads astray whom He wills, but there is also a means of how that happens. Is there any other question, inshallah? Yes, Dr. Omar.
So when we say convert, I like to use the term reverts,
Mhm.
because we are in Islam born Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
All children are born Muslim, and
Right.
as they are grown up and society, develops them
Right.
in their religion. So
Mm.
the word revert is tried, or I used to say converts, but now I say revert because I know that they were Muslim when they were born.
So did everybody catch that? The use of the word convert instead of revert, right? So about whether we are born Muslim, there's actually a question mark on this. What we are born on is al-fitrah, right? That's what we're actually born on. We're not necessarily born on Islam. We are born on al-fitrah, which is the natural, innate instinct, if you want to call it that, right? There's like a guiding compass inside that says, I know I'm supposed to find Islam, I just don't know what it is, right? But there's a certain point in a person's life, whether you're born into a Muslim family or not, where a person, I think, formally accepts the teachings, internally, right? Anyway, but Jazakallah khair for that. We hear that all the time. Convert, revert. Ask the one who's in front of you. Which one do you prefer? Doesn't really matter to you?
I prefer revert.
You prefer revert?
For that reason.
Okay.
So one of the reasons, just because I was learning about how everything in our universe worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just by, it's like atomic, just at the
By the
atomic
default,
level.
right?
Yeah, just everything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, He controls everything, and everything works by His command. So even though, like a 2-year-old, maybe he or she was raised Muslim, but this person doesn't really know God. This person hears about God and they may try to do the rituals, but they don't really know God. And the fact that if this person was died before puberty, they would, inshallah, go to paradise. So I think something along those lines too, and the fact that, I don't know. That's why
I think I know what you're
prefer
saying.
revert,
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah. I think it's semantics, English language. What are you going to do? So, khair, inshallah. Is there another question, inshallah? Mr. Hani, and then the brother in the back. Yeah, Hadi.
There's lots of talk about how the large population that is becoming Muslim is actually Hispanic and Latino females especially, and they always talk about that. What's your thoughts on that?
Can you repeat the question?
So he's basically asking about my thoughts on Latinos specifically and women accepting Islam in, I guess, high numbers. I think it's awesome.
I think he's asking why.
Why? I don't know.
Allah guides whom He wills, right?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like the fact that Catholicism, if you're a lot of Hispanics, a lot of Latinos are Catholic, or they grew up Christian, and just kind of the foundations of it. It's pretty morally, it's along the lines of Islam, but I guess kind of what happened to me was that just the Trinity, that was just and just trying to understand these things and just not understanding it, I guess. Trying, but you're not trying. And also the fact that Islam, like I mentioned, elevates women so highly. I think that might be one of the reasons why there's so many women that are accepting Islam in high numbers.
Brother.
It's a two-part question. The first one is a quick follow-up, and the second one is a question that I have. As a follow-up to the brother's question, is it? Do you think the I guess what we call the Latino subculture? Do you think the Latino subculture is probably one incentive for many Latinas to accept Islam, because it short of having to sound insensitive to people's struggles, I don't think it is a secret. In fact, it's quite obvious that going on the Latino subculture is predicated on certain types of things that the Muslim culture would consider haram as far as how women are treated. Do you think that the Latino subculture accepting Islam is a reaction toward the cycle of the Latino subculture?
Do you understand that?
No, really.
Try again.
Well, let me try it again. The Latino subculture, of course, is alcoholism, fornication, violence against women, and just things that are anti putting the woman on a pedestal is how we do in Islam. Do you think one of the reasons why many Latinos are fond of accepting Islam because Muslim men are completely opposite to what the Latino female is accustomed to?
I would say that even though Islam does teach all these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that men are this way. We would like to think that all these men, lower their gazes, but the truth is that, just to be honest. Yeah, theoretically it all sounds great. And yeah, I mean, we would want to be hopefully in a situation where, everything's nice, everyone's just, but honestly, I can't really answer the question, but
So what was that was the follow-up. What's your actual question
The
now?
actual question is this. And this, I guess, is also addressed to the brother moderator as well. Earlier, you two discussed about how you should practice your religion at your own pace. And I guess the question is what does the Sunnah say about at least having to strike the balance between pushing yourself and trying to find out as much of the deen as possible and trying not to overwhelm yourself? What's the consensus on striking that balance?
So just answer. Do you want them to answer first,
And
or?
answer first, and I guess what would your thoughts be?
Sure. So let's go with a convert experience answer first, and then I'll go take it from there.
I think pushing yourself and pacing yourself is, also, it's a great way for you to understand the religion. But going at your own pace, I know people that converted that were just pushed everything at once. And I think that's what I mean by going at your own pace, because what I did first was I learned praying from a friend and YouTube. And at first my prayers were perfect. I only knew two verses, which is Fatiha and Surah Ikhlas, and that was it. And I think it took me another 2.5 to 3 weeks to learn the surah, because it was difficult at first. But what other people think is that when they converted, they need to learn all these things at once. They need to change their lifestyle right away. They need to start doing this. They need to start doing that. I have convert friends who were drinking for the first couple of years when they were converted, but now they completely stopped. And that's a good thing, because had they stopped right away, when cold turkey, they might have the urge to keep doing it and eventually leave Islam. So, yeah, everyone needs to find that balance in between, but at the same time, it shouldn't be forced or just pressurized on you.
Do you want to add to that?
A lot of shuyukh, they say that as long as you're going forward and not back, even if you're going kind of just hanging in there, you're not making progress, but just don't go back. And also why I mentioned the fact that, we shouldn't, especially as converts, overwhelm ourselves, because it comes to a point where you're just, it all seems nice at first, and when you start trying to, pray 5 times a day and then do all these extra sunnah, and then you're just it just becomes to the fact that you're just people around you, they see Islam as something burdening. They don't see something as, I've been told, after you accepted Islam, I don't see you any happier, because I was just overwhelming myself. And that's not the Islam that I wanted to present to my family, or basically to my family, because I'm trying to get them to understand Islam. And if we get to the point where we're just overburdening ourselves, we get to a point where we just want to quit. That's why. Okay. Like sometimes when you see, like, let's say, there was an example of, let's say you're on a diet and there's like a box of donuts. So you've been dieting all day and then you come home and you have one bite of donut. What do you think? Do you think like, oh no, like I'm just gonna put it down and I'm still dieting? No, you're just like, what's the point now? I'm just gonna eat the whole box because So that's what happens, You're just like, oh, like I didn't do this today. I might as well just not do anything at all. And then you think you're a bad Muslim. You stop doing Islam altogether because if you're not Muslim, you can't be a bad Muslim. So.
There you go. Which I'm glad that was a perfect segue into what I was going to say. There's actually an incident from the Seerah when the people of, I believe it was Yemen, or at least a big tribe who became Muslim. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he sent, I believe it was Mus'ab ibn Umayr, to go teach them Islam. And it seems that he was trying to teach them everything all at once, because they came to Medina and told him, Ya Rasulullah, he is overwhelming us. So he sent for Mus'ab, and Mus'ab radiallahu anhu came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ told him, do you wish to cause a fitna among the people? That's how serious this was. He told them, and so he told Mus'ab, when you teach them Islam, first teach them the Shahadatain. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah. Once they understand that, then teach them Salah. Let them continue doing whatever they're doing. Okay? But teach them Salah. After they get Salah, then teach them Zakah. And after they understand Zakah, then teach them Sawm. And after they understand Sawm, then teach them Hajj. Right? That's the pacing yourself. Right? Because here's the thing. Okay? I'm going to talk in extremes now. In the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, what is the greatest sin? Shirk. Associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the unforgivable sin. Right? So, in that extreme measurement, it is better to be a bad Muslim than it is to be a good non-Muslim. Do you understand? So as long as you are not associating partners with Allah, but hey, you're drinking, you're fornicating, you're doing all this stuff, right? Listen, get your salah down, because إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. Salah, if you do it right, it will prevent you from doing these sins. Salah, that's the formula. So if you're still doing these sins, that means something's wrong with your salah. Right? So that's what we're talking about, pacing yourself. We follow the model of the Prophet ﷺ, right? You master the most important things first. The five pillars. Just start with that, right? You can't expect most people to get more than that. Most people can't expect them to get more than that. A Bedouin one time came to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "Listen, Ya Rasulullah, I am a very simple-minded person. I cannot grasp much. Just give me something so I can live on it, and I'll stay with it for the rest of my life." Prophet ﷺ, he told him, "Atashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah." Told him the shahadatain. Wa an tuqimu as-salah. To pray 5 times a day. Wa ati az-zakah. Give your zakah. Wa sawm Ramadan. Fast Ramadan. Wa hajj al-bayt. And make hajj at least to the Kaaba at least once in your lifetime. And this Bedouin said, "I am not going to do more than that, and I'm not going to do less than that. I'm going to do exactly what you just said." And he left. And the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba, he said that, "Wallahi, if he does exactly what he just said, he will be successful," meaning he will go to Jannah. You understand? Alright, I think we have time for like 2 more questions and that's it.
Just a quick observation.
Yes.
I want to thank both the brother and sister for coming and
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
sharing their experiences with us. I think that's a great thing, so I want to thank you for that. I also want to, I think you've alluded to it, sister, setting the expectation is an important thing, right? A lot of new converts, they come in and maybe like the brother mentioned, the moderator, you come in on that Friday and everybody's hugging you and you do your shahada and you think that, maybe next week you'll come in and we'll recognize you, but unfortunately we all are human beings. We all are, have our shortcomings, and one has to understand that, we embrace you as brothers and sisters in Islam, but we're not perfect either, right? So please forgive us, right? If we don't invite you to our homes, and we're not as welcoming as we should be. A lot of us have our shortcomings and issues. But I think you mentioned it earlier when the brother raised the question. You mentioned it about man. Despite what's in the book, not all of us are actually maybe embracing it or following it, but word by word. But again, setting the expectation, understanding that no one is perfect, and one has to really draw the strength from the source, from the Quran. A lot of Muslims are not, like, we keep talking about bad Muslims and good Muslims. A lot of Muslims may not be very good, okay? And some Christians and some other faiths, they behave sometimes better than us Muslims in a lot of aspects of things. But again, remind yourselves, and I remind myself as well, that we're all human beings, we have our shortcomings. Go back to the source, go back to the Quran. I think you can shame a lot of Arabs, I'm an Arab, in being 2 years into Islam and knowing what you guys know. You guys are doing a fantastic job. So keep up on that pace. Ad-Deen Deen is an easy thing. Always go to the middle. Extremes are not good.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Okay, last comment, inshallah, and then we have to close.
Question to the facilitator.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the step for the convert, not to overrun the convert with the Islamic thing. And I would like to ask, what are the steps for the people in the Muslim community, for the children who were born in the Muslim parents, not to overrun them with the worldly things?
Okay. Wallahi, I guess in my own experience, right, I guess same rule applies. Right? For those, like he was asking about the pacing yourself, what if you're born and raised in a Muslim family? I think it's the same rule, right? I mean, maybe outside looking in, maybe you can have a different perspective. I don't know, but that's how I would set it. Same thing, same rule, right? Like I'm working on my children right now, right? I have a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old and a brand new baby boy. So it's like, so right now I'm just getting them excited about praying with daddy. You know what I mean? Like right now they just love spending time with me. So now when they see me, it's like I'm getting ready for salah. I'll say, okay, I'm making wudu, right? Or I'm about to go pray. Khalas, they know. They're like, oh, now we can, pray next to Baba, right? Or they'll ask me, Baba, can you carry me while you pray, right? To get them excited about it, right? Excited, right? Regardless of what the motivation is, but get them motivated about something. Get them motivated, I guess, to have a sweet experience. Now that's with regards to children. Now I guess with adults, right? Because Islam is a continuous journey, right? The spiritual experience, it's a lifelong process, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to judge us on how we lived our lives. Honestly, I guess you can always fall back on salah, right? I mean, what we just mentioned earlier, inna salata tanha an al-fahsha'i wal munkar. That salah, it prevents you from committing major sins. If you just do your best to master salah, and no one's going to get their salah perfect, but keep trying, right? If you do that build on that, right? And work to and just it'll make you a better person when you get your salah right. Right? Some people might argue, well, I'm a good person, I don't cheat people, I don't curse, I don't XYZ, but I don't pray. So I don't think I need to pray in order to be a better person, right? It sounds like they just killed the formula, right? But the fact of the matter is, imagine how much better they would be if they actually did pray, right? So I think we do have to close it up now. So did you guys enjoy this session?
Yes.
MashaAllah. Alright, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair, everybody. If we said anything good, it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we said anything wrong, it is from our own shortcomings and from the shaitan. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.